Right, what's happening is Distance. I'm back with another tutorial. So one of the most popular requests, or the most common requests, is how to mix kicks and bass together, or like 808s and kicks. So I thought I'd just give you a run through about how I approach it, or about how you can approach it. Not saying that the way I do it is the right way to do it either. It's just the way I hear things and the way I try and do things, and just apply whatever you want to apply from what I'm talking about into your tunes and see if it works. So I'm guessing that the main problem people have is because people want to have a punchy kick, and then they've got the low end information of the bass as well, and you've got the low end information of the kick, and they probably think they kind of cancel each other out. So, or the kick is being muted by the sub bass or by the mid range bass. So I'll play you something. This track is called Passive. I released this on my Bandcamp. I'll have a link below so you can go and check it out. But yeah, I'll play this for a little bit. You can have a listen, see how it drops with the kick, and you can see how it all works together. So there you go, you get the idea. So it's really important. This is why it's so important to get the kick and the bass right. Is because the kick is the driving force. The kick is like creating the rhythm of the tune, and without that, it's just gonna, if it's buried in there and you're not really hearing it, it's just the tune's not gonna be as banging. Basically, it's not gonna be as stompy. And also, if you're mixing as well, you're going to be listening out for that kick, and you might be finding it really difficult. So let me just see where the kick is. So there's my kick. Hang on. So look, I'll just play it again, but with the kick muted. So as you can tell, it just won't work without the kick being there, which obviously the kick will be there. But maybe just let me if I have a muck around with the EQs. So look, I'm not really doing anything crazy with equalizers, although I've got one here. It's just a tiny little boost at 10k. Let's have a listen what happens if I roll off some of the top end. And so this is something, actually, before I do that, something I really want to touch upon is a lot of people don't think about things logically, and that sounds really bad, but people a lot of the times just dive in to mixing, but on a level of mixing the individual channels themselves. So they'll mute everything and just have like the kick track playing, and then they'll EQ the kick to be like, oh yeah, that sounds great, sounds really punchy, sounds wicked, and then they unmute or unsolo the kick with everything else in, and that doesn't as good anymore. The kick's missing. What's happened? And all I can say to you is you're doing it wrong. Like, don't mix individual channels. You're mixing a track, yeah. So have everything playing, or at least if it's going to be in there with a sub bass or some mid range bass, have them playing together at the same time, and do your EQs then, if you see what I mean. Because as soon as you unsolo, what's the point in having an amazing sounding snare or an amazing sounding kick if it doesn't sound amazing when it's playing in the track it's going to be playing in? Do you know what I mean? I'm not selling you a kick drum track, am I? I'm selling a full composed beat. So that's what we need to think about first of all. So when you do these kind of things, do it with the track playing all together. And another thing to understand is like attack. So attack on a sound, so like me clicking my finger, or the attack on a kick. So let's play this kick. Now, a lot of people won't think about this in this way. They'll assume or always relate kicks to bottom end, and kicks are only punchy if there's top end information. So what I'm going to do, I'll just show you what I mean by that. If I didn't have any top end in this kick, it's just going to be a thud, like a really, really low thud. So let me take this EQ. I'll take off loads of the top end and let's have a listen to it. Hang on. Now, can you hear that? It's nowhere near as defined as it was when it had the top end in. So remember this, yeah? The top end part of your kick is the punch. You know, I know we want a thud, but I'm not talking about the thud. I'm talking about what your ears latch onto as, there's a kick drum there and it's punching through all my sounds. So if I take this back, or let's take that, the fourth EQ band off and listen again. And what I'll do is I'll let it play through and I'll turn this on and off and have a little listen. So watch me clicking here. So you see what I'm saying? As soon as I take away the top end of that kick, it's almost like it disappears. Now, if you've got wicked speakers like I have, and you're very fortunate, well done. But if you're listening on like laptop speakers, the speaker from your phone, a car stereo system that's okay, that top end is really, really important. If that top end is missing, then on crappy speakers, on your iPhone speaker, or even in a typical setup car stereo system where people like having their subwoofers and all this kind of stuff, I guarantee you've got way more bottom end in your car sound system than you have top end. So if I take away the top end of that kick, all you're going to get is more bottom end, and it's all just going to get confused and muffled. And that's the real issue, is the bottom end. So the bottom end in your kick, the bottom end in your sub, they're conflicting when they're playing together. It just sounds muddy and muffled and you're not getting any definition. So what I'll do is I will do this the other way, as in I will take out the bottom end information. And I think what you'll find is the bottom end information isn't anywhere as important as you think it is. Now, I'm not saying that's right, because I love bottom ends. Like I even, in some of my tunes, I even boost 50 hertz on my kicks because I want that thump. And that's something else I'm going to talk about in a minute. So anyway, let me let's use this. So look, as you can see already, I have got a filter on this, and it's just taking up the super rumble. So I mean, I could go even further than that, but that's just where my ears said to me that sounds fine. Rolling it off from 34 hertz. Okay, so look, if I now take this up to, let's just say 200. Have a listen, okay? Now, yes, there's not a lot of weight to that kick, but you can still hear the kick. Whereas if I do it the other way, it's a lot more noticeable that the kick is disappearing. So what I'll do is I'll play it and I'll take this down. So look, I've gone down to 80, around about 82 hertz, and that sounds fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've got a bottom end punch and we've got a top end punch. So if I'll open this up again. I think it was like 34 hertz when it was ringing. So let's have a listen. There we go. Okay. But if I go crazy boosting the bottom end, let's see what happens. Hang on. actually, doesn't seem to interfere too much. So another thing that's kind of probably more important than anything above all of the stuff I've just mentioned is sample choice. Okay, because if you have a kick that is just very bottom end focused, then you're not going to be able to do what I'm doing with this kick, you know. And this is one kick. I haven't layered kicks. It's just one sound. And what a lot of people tend to do, and even what I do sometimes, is if I do want, you know, if I have a kick and I really like the bottom end of it, but it doesn't have this snap that I'm saying, then I may load in a kick similar to this, but roll off all the bottom end. So all we've got is the just that top end pop that I'm talking about. So once again, let's play it again, and I'm going to roll off the top end, and you just hear what happens. So you can see all the information kind of from 200 above is really, really important in your kicks. I know a lot of people go super crazy, you know, trying to boost at like 100 or 90 hertz, which is cool. But if you haven't got that top end information, it doesn't matter how hard you boost that, it's still gonna feel like your kick's not there. So that's one thing to consider. Another way around this is sidechaining, obviously. So if you've got a very sub-heavy track, let me see, where's the sub in this? Okay, so in this tune I've got like a sub, which is just massive, and all that is bottom end. I'm going to have a look and see if I have EQ'd any notches out to help the kick poke through. So you can see, like, for a sub, if it is just literally adding weight, you know, with a tiny bit of kind of low mid harmonics, just so it's audible on small speakers, I will still take out a notch. Now, I think I've probably taken out such a drastic notch here, either to give space for the mid-range kind of sound that's happening, which is absinthe. It's very subtle, but when I take that down, that is giving a little bit of room for that mid-range bass to come through. But also might be worth listening to that sub. Let's have that EQ there. And where's my kick? Here we go. What am I doing? Okay. So let's just see what happens. Hang on, let's let it play around. So in this instance, actually, I haven't done that to give space for the kick, and I haven't even done any drastic EQing to give space for the kick. Like this one just works. So again, it sounds a bit lame and a bit of an easy way out, but it really is like sample choices and sound choices. Like if you're going to have a super sub heavy track and a super sub heavy kick drum, then you're going to have issues. So what I'd suggest is you layer another kick, so you have that little top end information if that kick you like doesn't have that, so it'll punch through. And another way to do it is to obviously sidechain your kick with your sub bass or even the mid-range bass. And another thing is, you know, mixing is all about choices. It's about what's the important factor, what is that sound job. Like in some styles of music, or even in, you know, in dubstep or house, whatever it is, the kick could be the sound that you want to be the sub bass, or to be covering those frequencies. Do you see what I mean? Like I know in some house music, it's the real lows, the real low sub on the kick that is the sub information in the tune. and sometimes the actual bass lines has got the real low subs rolled out of them. So it's the kick doing all of that excitement down below. So that's something to consider. Like, think about, and this is across the whole method of mixing, is think about where your sounds are supposed to be sitting. Like, are they supposed to be up front? Are they supposed to have attack? Are they supposed to be punchy? You know, if they're like pads or like synths, you know, they're not always designed to be here. They're designed to be set back. So if you think of a sound set really far back, you know, you're not going to hear the attack of it. Like if I clap here, but then here, or further back there, you're not getting the real high-end information, and you're probably not getting the real low-end information. So think about that. So think, if a sound's going to be further away, there's going to have less top-end information, less bottom-end information, you know, and you apply this a little bit to the kick and the sub thing, you know. Sub's a funny thing. Like, it might not always be supposed to be there right up in your face. I mean, it's, you know, it's more of a making your chest rattle kind of sound. So, you know, you won't have top-end information. So roll all the top-end information away, and then you're giving space for that top end of your kick that I'm talking about. What else? Now, if you're going, so if you're going for more of an 808 sound, I mean, we could do that in this. If I set up another track, I could do it in audio, I guess. Hang on. Or, let me have a look. Stereo. What have I got on this? Let me have a look what I've got in battery. Alright, I won't use that. As you can see, I plan these tutorials very, very well. Let me have a look. Samples. So, like, hang on. Samples. Drums. And annoyingly, my Cubase isn't auditioning samples at the moment, which is great. Right, so let's have a listen. So what I'll do here is I'll try and go for the opposite to kind of what this track is. Like, this track is obviously more like a distorted bass and a kick. So we could try going for more of the 808-y kind of trappy, you know, like Rick Ross, Drake kind of sound. And again, it is all about sample choices. So, you know, like this kick has got all of the information I need. Hang on. Let's just do that. See, if I want to really bring out the top end, I can. Oh, that's too much. But you get the idea. Like, I can get this to do what I need it to do. Let's turn that down a bit. And maybe let's have a sub. Okay. Let's try. Let's just do massive. Okay. We'll just do this from scratch. Where's massive gone? There it is. Alright. Got a nice little bit of delay on there to help me. Now I've got some sounds I've even made. 8 and 8 sub grutty. What's that? Hang on. Rick Rusk. There we are. What's that? what is going on. Alright, so everything's deciding not to work, which is great. Let's try and do this with samples. Hang on. You definitely know I don't plan these, which I apologise for. Hang on, let me see. Oh, look, there's some sounds I've been making, isn't there? Let's have a look. There we go. What have I got in here? Bass. I've called it Rick Ross. Let's have a listen to this sub. Hang on. Okay, so it's kind of like a typical sub sound. Let's roll off some of the top end. Let's get an EQ on there. Right, let me see what we're doing down here. Are we peaking? Do you want to make this sound muffled for you? A little bit. Right, let's turn them down. So let's imagine you're going more for this kind of thing, you know, like a trappy thing. It's going to be completely down to mix choices again. Hang on. Let's just find a snare. I'm not sure what snare we got. Attack snare. Let's see what that is. So yeah, by the way, these are some samples. They're going to be in a sample pack to come out soon. A distance sample pack. Hang on, what's this snare saying? Sorry, I know I'm wasting time. Just going to do this very quickly, just to give you like a little loop. I am really good at writing beats. There we go. All right, this is really basic, so don't judge me on this, okay? Maybe let's put that one down. All right, okay. So, you know, I've kind of got a typical 808y bass and kick going on there, or trappy, I don't know. I haven't done anything clever, and already they're working well together. So, again, this is what I'm saying. The sample choices. If you're making your tune, you're halfway through, you're struggling so hard to get it to work. Try a different kick. I do it all the time. It's hard work. Don't get me wrong, because you get attached to the sounds you're using. But I guarantee you, if you start swapping out kicks for the right sounding one, that's it. You're going to save half the problems. And another big problem is gain staging. People don't get the levels of these things right from the beginning. So they'll have all their faders running really, really hot, and then come into your, final mixing tweaks. Sometimes your biggest problem is you just need to turn something up. You don't need to EQ it. You don't need to compress it. It's a case of that thing needs to be louder. And everyone kind of like looks at this as like a cop-out, but it's not. I guarantee you, if you're having a real problem with its snares, any sound in your mix, it's just not cutting through. Just first thing you should always try, and this sounds so stupid, but the first thing to always try is just turn it up. I guarantee you, like 80% or 90% of the time, that's all it is. You just need to turn that sound up. So if you can get your gain staging right from the beginning, that's going to also cure or fix half the problem of your kicks battling your subs. So anyway, let's have a little listen to this. So, if I really wanted to, I haven't got my monitors very loud, so I can't really tell how much low-end information is in that kick. But let's just say we want to roll off some of that. And, we can listen to this kick while it's all playing. So, that kind of sounds okay to me. I don't mind that either. So this is what I'd say. See if you can see what I'm doing. Again, I've got the elements playing and I'm EQing, but I am listening to that kick and how it sits with that bass when that bass comes in. And that around there, what is that? That's like, 459 hertz. But it's kind of giving that a nice, it's like a knock. Do you know what I mean? It's just sitting on top of the sub. And that's the difference between mixing your kicks within like a tune I showed you at the beginning of the tutorial. You've got loads of things to compete with. You've got mid-range basses, reverbs, all kinds of things. And in this, I know this isn't a finished tune. I've just chucked this together. But in tunes like this are much more stripped down, that are just like, more like stripped down hip hop beats, where it's just mainly about the kick and the sub and the snare. It's more a balance about your low end, if you see what I mean. And when it comes to 808s, the kick is more of a complement to the sub. Do you know what I mean? Like if you listen to real 808s that come from an 808 machine, it's just like a pitched down or like a sine wave with a pitch envelope on it, so it's kind of like that. But because it's so fast, it sounds like it's got an attack like a kick, and then it goes down to this steady pitch that's like that. That's how good it sounds. And but if you're making sounds similar to this, that's kind of like, this is kind of like the modern sound of an 808. Do you see what I mean? Because people listen to stuff on such small speakers now. The 808s, the basses are sounding more fuzzy. They're more excited around the kind of 200, 120 kind of frequencies. And the kicks are just sitting above that. They're just kind of riding it. They're just kind of giving that knock. Because if you listen to this bass sound on its own, it's kind of got a little thud, but not enough. So the kick is literally just... Now, let's say you still heard that they're interfering in the low end and you don't like that. There's a couple of things you can do. If you've got Cubase or another kind of editing software like this, then I can just click these envelopes. So I can actually do it. I could zoom in and see, so that my the subs have got like a slow attack, if That makes sense. So it's a gradual envelope rather than it's been like boom, it's going like woo. So then the kick is creating the attack, and also which shouldn't get as much conflict because you've got the bottom end of the kick, but the bottom end of the sub isn't coming in until after we've had the first transient of the kick. And basically that's all sidechaining is doing, is it's ducking the volume of one to give space for the other. So that's another technique you can look at, sidechaining, very powerful. So if I undo those again, so I'll open those up. Let's do this, we don't get confused. Let's put 808 on there. Let's put kick and snare. So let's go to our kick. Actually, no, let's not go to our kick. So here's our 808. Let's add a compressor. You can just use, I'll just use the compressor that comes with Cubase because why not? And it will just show you that you don't need any flashy compressors. You don't need some special waves compressor, and there's nothing wrong with them, but I'm just saying not everyone's got them. So let's just try this. Turn off auto makeup. We can put it onto peak. Release time we're going to muck around with in a minute. Okay, so I've got my compressor set up on the 808 channel or my sub bass channel. So this could work with just sub bass tracks as well. So if I go down to sidechain, I'm going to send it to my 808. There we go. Switch this on. Put it up to 0. There we go. Let's have a listen. So now, if I have the compressor that's on my sub there. So you can see this is the amount being compressed, so it's ducking. Now I've got like the fastest release time possible. So I literally want it to just duck and then come back. We can turn the threshold down a bit so it's not as extreme. I like it quite extreme just because I think if you're going to do this, if that effect, and to make it even more extreme, you can increase the release time. So I'm just turning up the makeup gain here so you can hear, I'm just making it extreme so you can hear what it's doing. You can hear it go like down, it goes like ooh, ooh. Alright, so here we go. So that's really extreme, just to show you how sidechaining works. So basically you've got three, well, I've touched on loads of things there. It might have gone on a little bit longer than I planned, but it's covering very different angles to the kind of bass and kick problem, in that, you know, if you're making a really noisy kind of track, whether it's drum and bass, dubstep, trap. I mean, if you listen to trap now, or the kind of the wave sound, everything is sidechained, like pretty much everything, like the kick and the snare are sidechained to all the reverbs, to all the synths, to all the basses. So it's almost fixing that problem because the kicks, you're going to hear the kick because everything's being ducked at the same time. So you can try that. If you're having real struggles and you really like your kick, you don't want to change the sound of your kick, I would just try sidechaining all the sounds that are conflicting with your kick. And a really good way to figure out what sounds are doing that, and this works across your mix as a whole and any sound that you find struggling, is to have your mix playing one by one, press mute on a sound, unmute it, move down, da-da-da. If you press mute on a track, or on a channel, sorry, and all of a sudden you're like, my kick's there, then you know that track, that channel has got something going on in it that's conflicting with your kick. So you can go in, try EQing, sort it out. That's what I suggest if you're doing a tune like the one that I first showed you, which is my track Passive. I'll just play that again. You know, there's a lot there that could conflict with that kick, but it's not. And that's because of EQ, but mainly because of sample choices and correct gain staging. A lot of people don't have their kicks very loud in their tunes. They don't have their snares loud enough in their tunes. And this is something I always come across that's very, very common. And that's all I can say really, is gain staging, volume is your most powerful tool. Like, that is where mixing starts. Volume. Get all your volumes right. EQing and everything else is just to fix the smallest of problems. So anyway, that's if you've got a noisy track like that. If it's more stripped back, you know, the kind of like hip hoppy stuff that's around now, you can sidechain. You don't even need to sidechain if you've got the right sounds. You know, and another thing I said is some people might decide that you know, that the bass in the track isn't the key element for the sub bass information. So let's just say I roll off the real. Oh, hang on. Let's just say I roll off the real bottom end of my sub. So let's say I've taken off up to, I don't know, 50, nearly 60 hertz. Hang on. And then I'll open up the bottom end of my kick. See, then that'll work, because then all I'm really getting is the kind of you know, the excited lower mids of my 808, but my kick is my solid kind of, you know, 40 hertz, 50 hertz thud that's going to sound good on a sound system or in a car. So yeah, try these techniques out. But ultimately, that's what the problem is with mixing kicks. It's just conflicting frequencies. And again, you can fix that with like an envelope on the audio sample itself. So if you are using MIDI, like let's say you're using Massive for a bass sound and you're struggling, you could export that as audio, put it back in. You could, you know, like this, cut it up where your kicks are and have, you know, play with the envelope and the fades. Or if you've got it as audio, you could, you know, or even as MIDI still, you can draw in the volume if you wanted instead of using the sidechain. So there's many different ways of doing it, but ultimately I'll just go through, like, say the top tips is sample selection, gain staging, correct volumes of everything. Like, if something's really struggling, just try turning it up. If you try to turn up your kick and your bottom end's just going nuts, then take some bottom end out of your kick. And then on top of that is top end in your kick. A lot of people don't think about the top end in their kicks. They just think of kicks as their lower end, not your lower end, but you know what I'm saying. And then if you know, kicks, their lower ends and sub basses are very similar, so they're bound to get confused and lost. But as you saw in the beginning of this tutorial, when I rolled off the top end information, it almost disappeared, that kick. And on a little speaker, you're just not even going to hear that kick. So I'll try and do the same thing with this quickly, just as well, I might as well do it. Here we go. So there you go. I mean, you can still hear that. And but when I open it up, you'll notice the difference. If you listen to this, just got a little bit more attack, that little bit more snap, and little things like that will make a difference. Like if you're making your music for sound systems or for like ridiculously, souped up car sound systems, that little additional snap is just going to make a little difference between your kick getting lost or you hearing your kick. So yeah, try those techniques out. Let me know if they work, or even if they don't work, or even if you just want to... Oh, hello. I'll call them back in a minute. Or even if they don't work, write down in the comments, say you've tried everything and it didn't work, what else can I try? And I'll try and answer it. But these techniques do work, and ultimately it's about your ears and how you hear things and recognizing problems. So the more you do this kind of thing, the more it's just going to become second nature, and you won't even think about it. I don't even think about it now. Like kicks and basses, it's just not even a problem for me. I don't know. I just kind of have dealt with the problem so much in the past now that I know exactly what to do. I know what kick drum sounds are going to work for which tracks I'm making, whether it's a super sub heavy tune or a hip hop tune. Like the old dub tunes are so sub heavy, but if you listen to a lot of the drums that would have been used back in the day, there would have been like live drums. So, there's loads of attack, and you hear the very, top end of the kick drum hitting the kick pedal hitting the kick drum. So think about it like that. Think about frequencies, volume, what is the job of the sound, and just make the right choices and it'll all work. Until next time, take it easy.